This is Alexandra Kitty. You are listening to Officer Down, a true crime podcast where the victim happens to be someone in law enforcement. Now, before we go into the last episode of the season, I want to talk about the overriding theme. So it's interesting when we look at these cases of law enforcement officials who were murdered as if they were civilians and not in the line of duty, that we can see that a lot has high risk elements. Last week, we talked about a deputy sheriff whose boyfriend was a convicted felon. We had another case where a police officer was killed during a grinder encounter, another one through Facebook Marketplace. Two others had spouses that had mental health issues beforehand. So we can see when somebody is a police officer that they don't always follow the rules of reality they witness day in and day out. So a lot of times people will blame a victim and say, well, she should have known better. She shouldn't have gone out with this person, or he shouldn't have done this, or she shouldn't have done that. And you go, well, yes, we could say that. But here are police officers who are trained in their everyday reality see the same things, and yet they lapse into the same fatal patterns. So it's an interesting thing to notice that in this season, every single case, and even the one today, we can say, well, yes, but they should have seen it. But you don't see it. Your civilian life and your professional life, particularly if you're a law enforcement officer, seem to run on two different parts of your brain, and that we don't always see what we should see. So for this final episode of the season, next week, we're doing a completely different theme. We're going to talk about Lieutenant Joel Wood. He was an American police officer, and the event that occurred in 2018. So we're going to look at the jealous rage that killed a lieutenant, Joel Wood's final off-duty hours. On August 24th, 2018, at approximately 1 a.m., Lieutenant Joel Michael Wood, a 45-year-old, 22-year veteran of the Port Huron Police Department in Michigan, was shot and killed inside an apartment in Clyde Township by Joshua Michael Bauman, 30, the estranged husband of Wood's girlfriend, Ashley Rayford née Bauman. Wood was off duty and visiting Rayford's apartment when Bauman, who had been tracking his estranged wife's location and suspected she was seeing another man, kicked in the apartment door and opened fire. Bauman shot Wood in the chest as he and Rayford emerged from the bedroom. Wood, despite being mortally wounded, rushed Bauman and fought for the gun while Rayford fled outside screaming for help. Bauman shot Wood 2 more times in the bedroom, reloaded, then executed him with a final shot to the back of the head. Bauman then chased Rayford outside, shooting her 3 times, and also shot her neighbor, Timothy Fuster, 57, who had come to her aid. Both Rayford and Fuster survived. Joshua Bauman fled to Detroit, posted confessions on Facebook, and surrendered after a 3-hour phone call with police. He was convicted of first-degree premeditated murder in March 2021 and sentenced to life in prison without parole in May 2021. So let's talk about the victim, Lieutenant Joseph Michael Wood. Joseph Michael Wood was born on March 15, 1973, in Pontiac, Michigan. He joined the Port Huron Police Department and served nearly 23 years into the rank of lieutenant. Port Huron Police Chief Joseph Platzer described Wood as a great officer who had dedicated more than 2 decades to protecting and serving the Port Huron community. Lieutenant Wood was the father of 3 children. He loved his job and spending time with his family. Friends and colleagues remembered him as someone who enjoyed fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. Wood had been dating Ashley Rayford, a 29-year-old administrative assistant at the Port Huron Police Department. Rayford was in the process of divorcing her husband, Joshua Bauman, and had been seeing Wood secretly for fear that Bauman would react violently if he discovered the relationship. According to testimony at Bauman's trial, Rayford testified, "I believed the defendant would have killed me if he found out I was dating another man." So let's talk about the killer, Joshua Michael Bauman. He was 30 years old at the time of the murder. He and Ashley Rayford had been married and shared a 3-year-old daughter together. According to court records and trial testimony, Bauman had a history of controlling, obsessive and abusive behavior toward Ryford. He tracked her location obsessively. He became increasingly suspicious that she was seeing another man. Ryford denied dating anyone, fearing Bauman's violent reaction. On the night of the murder, Bauman followed Ryford to Applebee's restaurant where she had been with Wood and then tracked her back to her apartment. On the night of August 23rd to 24th, 2018, Bauman tracked Ryford's location to Applebee's, went home and changed his shoes, retrieved his handgun and ammunition from inside his house, drove to Ryford's apartment after tracking that she and Wood had returned there. According to Bauman's own confession, he stood outside Ryford's apartment and heard her and Wood having sex. He then loaded his gun and kicked in the door. So let's talk a little bit about Clyde Township, St. Clair County, the scene of the crime. The shooting occurred at Ryford's apartment in the 4700 block of Atkins Road in Clyde Township, St. Clair County, Michigan. Clyde Township is located in St. Clair County, approximately 60 miles northeast of Detroit and just northwest of the city of Port Huron. So let's talk about the timeline of the murder. Thursday night, early Friday morning, August 23rd to 24th, 2018. In the evening, Ashley Ryford went to Applebee's restaurant with Lieutenant Joel Wood. During dinner, Joshua Bauman tracked Ryford's location and followed her to Applebee's. After dinner, Bauman went home, changed his shoes, and retrieved his handgun and ammunition. Late night, Ryford and Wood returned to Ryford's apartment in Clyde Township. At approximately 1 a.m., August 24th, Bauman arrived outside Ryford's apartment. According to his confession, he heard Ryford and Wood having sex inside. Bauman loads his gun. Hearing the sounds of intimacy, he loaded his handgun. At 1 a.m., Bauman kicked in the door to Ryford's apartment. Ryford and Wood, who were in bed, heard the bang and got out of bed. Bauman went directly to the bedroom and saw Ryford and Wood naked. He shot Wood in the chest. But despite being shot, Wood rushed Bauman and wrestled for the gun. Ryford tried to stop Bauman, but eventually ran outside screaming for help. 2 more shots were fired in the bedroom as Wood fought for the gun, and Bauman shot him in the bedroom. One of the bullets struck Wood's spine, causing him to collapse. Bauman then reloaded his handgun in the bedroom and shot Wood once more in the back of the head, executing him. Outside the apartment, Bauman walked out and chased Ryford, who had fled to a neighbor's apartment for help. Nancy Fuster, 57, a neighbor in another apartment, heard Ryford's screams and grabbed his own gun, attempting to stop Bauman. However, Bauman shot Ryford 3 times, and he also shot Fuster. Both Fuster and Reinhardt survived their injuries and were transported to McLaurin Macomb Hospital. After the shooting, Bauman fled the scene in his vehicle and drove to Detroit, Michigan. He stopped at an ATM machine and withdrew funds. Bauman then posted on Facebook, hinting that he killed the man who was sleeping with his wife. Bauman contacted several people, including his mother, and confessed to killing Wood. Hours later, Bauman called 911, which connected to Detroit Dispatch. Bauman spoke with police for more than 3 hours, admitting he had killed Wood and expressing that he was considering taking his own life. Police convinced Bauman to turn himself in. Bauman claimed he was driving to the police station when he stopped for gas at a gas station in Southfield, Michigan. Officers identified Bauman at the gas station and arrested him. During the car ride to jail, Bauman made incriminating statements to the officers in the patrol car. At the jail, Bauman waived his Miranda rights and made similar incriminating statements to Sergeant Steve Sermon. So now let's talk about the legal proceedings. So charges were filed on August 25th, 2018. And he was charged with first-degree premeditated murder in the case of Joel Wood, first-degree felony murder, Joel Wood, during commission of a home invasion, 2 counts of assault with intent to murder, Ashley Ryford and Timothy Fuster, first-degree home invasion, felony firearm, possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Before trial, Bauman notified the prosecution of his intent to seek an insanity defense. His theory was that he was depressed as a result of his marriage ending and he had taken too much Xanax, a drug he was prescribed for anxiety, on the day of the shootings, which resulted in him being legally insane. Bauman also moved to suppress his statements to police, arguing he was too impaired from Xanax to make a voluntary confession. The trial court denied the motion. So the trial took place on March 2021 at St. Clair County Circuit Court. The key evidence was Bauman's own confession during the 3-hour 911 call and call and to police, testimony from Ashley Reifert describing Bauman's controlling behavior and her fear of him, evidence that Bauman had tracked Reifert, followed her to Applebee's, changed shoes, retrieved his gun, and drove to her apartment. Forensic evidence showing Wood was shot in the chest, twice more in the bedroom, then executed with a shot to the back of the head, and also testimony from neighbor Timothy Fuster. The verdict was delivered on March 20, 2021. So after brief deliberations, the jury found Joshua Michael Bauman guilty of first-degree premeditated murder, 2 counts of assault with intent to murder, first-degree home invasion, felony firearm. The jury rejected Bauman's insanity defense. Sentencing was on May 11, 2021, where Joshua Bauman was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole for first-degree murder, 18 to 55 years imprisonment for each count of assault with intent to murder. Additional time for home invasion and felony firearm. As for the aftermath and community response, the funeral took place on August 28, 2018. Mourners gathered at the Jowett Funeral Homes in Port Huron to remember Lieutenant Joel Wood. His obituary read, Joel was born on March 15, 1973 in Pontiac, Michigan. He was a lieutenant at the Port Huron Police Department for nearly 23 years. He loved his job and spending time with his family. Joel enjoyed fishing, hunting, and the outdoors. He will be sadly missed by all that had the honor of knowing him. Port Huron Police Chief Joseph Platzer addressed the media. This is a tragic loss for the Port Huron Police Department. Lieutenant Wood was a great officer. He spent 23 years with our department in a variety of capacities, and he will be deeply missed. The department and the city of Port Huron grieved the loss of a dedicated public servant. The St. Clair County Sheriff's officials emphasized the danger Bauman posed. We are confident that the suspect in custody is responsible for the attack on all 3 victims. Lieutenant Joel Wood was off duty and in a private, intimate setting when he was ambushed and killed. His badge, his training, and his 23 years of law enforcement experience could not protect him from a jealous, enraged man who saw him as an obstacle to controlling his estranged wife. Wood's death underscores a grim reality. Separation is the most dangerous time for victims of domestic violence, and new romantic partners of abusive are at an extreme risk of violence from jealous ex-partners. Ashley Reifert's fear that Bauman would kill her if he discovered she was dating someone else proved tragically correct. Despite Bauman's later claims of insanity and Xanax impairment, the evidence showed clear premeditation, tracking Reifert's location, following her to Applebee's, going home to change the shoes and retrieve his gun and ammunition, waiting outside the apartment, listening, kicking in the door, reloading and executing Wood with a shot to the head. The jury rejected the insanity defense, finding Bauman guilty of first-degree premeditated murder. Despite being shot in the chest, Lieutenant Joel Wood fought back, rushing Bauman and wrestling for the gun to protect Ashley Reifert. His actions gave Reifert the chance to escape and likely saved her life, even as he lost his own. The murder of Lieutenant Joel Michael Wood on August 24, 2018, is a heartbreaking reminder that police officers are vulnerable to the same dangers civilians face in intimate relationships, and that off-duty, in private settings, their badge offers no protection. A 22-year veteran of the Port Huron Police Department, he was killed by Joshua Bauman, the jealous, controlling, estranged husband of his girlfriend, in a premeditated ambush that left Wood executed in a bedroom and 2 others shot and wounded. Despite being mortally wounded, Wood fought back, giving his girlfriend the chance to escape. Joshua Bauman's conviction and sentence of life without parole brought justice, but it cannot restore the life of a dedicated officer, beloved father, and hero who died protecting someone he cared about. As Port Huron Police Chief Joseph Platzer said, this is a tragic loss. He was a great officer, and he will be deeply missed. So that concludes Season 2. Next week is the beginning of another cycle of 6 episodes with a different theme. It's a bit of a fusion of both Season 1 and Season 2. And if you're wondering, yes, there is going to be a Season 3, 4, 5. There is themes. So I have a lot ahead. We're going to do this very informally like this. And I will see you next week. I hope I gave you something to think about, patterns to notice. Till then, ta-ta for now.